All right, we are going to talk about infectious diseases. So pathogens. So this might be a new word for you. Pathogens are disease-causing agents that have the ability to make you sick and sometimes even cause death. Some examples of these are bacteria and viruses, two things that we've already talked about. There are some other ones like fungi and protozoa that can also really make you sick or sometimes even cause death. Pathogens tend to be found in the air and sometimes in food, and basically are on every object or person that you come into contact with. So how do you get pathogens? How do you get bacteria? How do you catch viruses? How do you catch fungi? How do you catch protists? So there are several different ways that we're going to talk about. One is direct contact. So essentially anytime that you touch, kiss, or anything like that with somebody else, that's direct contact. Indirect contact is touching an object that an infected person has come into contact with. So if you share a cup with someone who's sick. Airborne contact, this is breathing in air that carries a pathogen. Only some things are carried in the air. If they say it's airborne, that means you can breathe it in and get sick. If it's not airborne, you can't. And then foodborne infections. This is eating something that is contaminated by microorganisms. If you ever hear of things like salmonella outbreak or something like that, that is a foodborne infection, even though salmonella is a bacteria. Okay, it is a foodborne infection because you eat it and then it makes you sick. There is the animal-borne pathogens. This is ones that animals spread, and they can spread it either by biting or sometimes through their poo or by carrying infected insects. So insects actually carry it, but the animals carry the insects into areas that you live in. So if your dog picks up a tick and that tick has Lyme disease, you can catch Lyme disease if that tick bites you. And then there's waterborne diseases. This is actually transmitted through drinking water. So this sometimes is from foods that were washed or sprayed with contaminated water, or from wading or swimming in contaminated streams, lakes, or reservoirs. So if there is a really bad waterborne illness and you go swimming in it, chances are you're going to catch it. Or if you drink it, chances are you're going to catch it. Or if you wash your food in it, like fruits or vegetables, you are going to catch it. And then the final one is perinatally. That is a big word. All it means is in natal or in utero. So mothers can transmit diseases to their baby in the womb and during birth, during childbirth. Bacteria. So we remember bacteria are single-celled organisms, and we know there are several thousand species, but only about 100 are actually disease-causing in humans. And most of the time the bacteria, it's not the bacteria itself causing the disease, but it's the slime on the outside. Remember how we said bacteria have this slime capsule? It's that slime that's actually causing the sickness. And these tend to be able to be seen under microscopes. And you remember we talked about the shapes of them. We've got cocci, bacilli, and spirilla. Viruses. So this is your most recent video that you watched. They are minute, or very, very tiny, and they're parasitic, meaning they live off of other organisms. They can't really do anything on their own. They have to infect something else. There are over 150 viruses that are known to cause diseases in humans, and viral diseases are really hard to treat because many can withstand really high heat, so you can't kill them with temperature, chemicals, they're resistant to chemicals, or radiation. So usually from the sun. Sun can kill bacteria, or some can kill viruses, or excuse me, cannot kill viruses. Viral diseases. So these are just some examples of some viruses that you probably have heard of. The common cold is definitely a viral infection. There's lots of different varieties of the common cold, over 200 in fact, and typically they're carried in the nose and the throat. And things that could cause you to get this is stress, allergies, sometimes menstrual cycles, and they could cause you to be more susceptible to catching the common cold. Influenza, this is the big word for the flu. Symptoms include aches and pains, nausea, diarrhea, fevers, and cold-like ailments, so you feel like you're so cold. In healthy people, young people typically, it's not usually serious. However, If you're sick with something else and you get it, or if you're elderly and you get it, or if you're a brand new baby and you get it, it can really cause some serious damage to your respiratory system and your heart. Mononucleosis, or mono, this is, or known as the kissing disease. This happens, you get a sore throat, you get fever, you get headache, nausea, chills, weakness, and tiredness. Your lymph nodes, those are sitting right underneath here, they can swell. You can sometimes get jaundice or yellow skin. Your spleen can enlarge, your joints may ache, and you may get body rashes. And this can be transmitted through fluids, like spit, but does not appear to be easily contracted through normal everyday contact. So it's not easy to transfer, but if you share a drink with someone who has mono, then you could definitely get it. Hepatitis. This causes liver inflammation, and there are several different types. There's hepatitis A, hepatitis B, and hepatitis C. These things we usually get immunized for, but we can still catch them if we don't have our immunizations up to date, or if somebody has a very strong case of it, we can still be a little bit susceptible to it even if we've had our vaccinations. Measles. Measles, this is symptoms appear about 10 days after exposure, and this is an itchy rash and super high fever. It can really be dangerous. It can lead to other problems such as rheumatic heart disease, so heart disease, kidney damage, or other neurological disorders. But we typically get immunized for the measles when we are young. Okay, other pathogens. So outside of viruses, there's also fungi, and they can be multicellular, remember, made up of more than one cell, or unicellular. And they are typically considered, I mean, they're not plants, but they're not plants. They have very similar structure to plant cells, and they are eukaryotic. They provide food. Some of them provide food. Mushrooms and cheeses are fungi. But there are some sicknesses that are fungi too, and that's like candidiasis. Athlete's foot is a fungal infection. Ringworm, if you've ever been a wrestler, is a fungal infection. Jock itch is a fungal infection. And then protozoa, and we're going to learn more about protozoa and fungi in the next week or so. But protozoa, these are microscopic single-celled organisms, and they cause disease. And some of the diseases that they cause are like trichomoniasis, giardia, and malaria. And the giardia is found in water, so this would be waterborne illness, and malaria, and this is via mosquitoes, if mosquitoes bite you. And that, it's the same thing as like West Nile virus would be mosquitoes, and that would be transmitted through mosquitoes' bites. So the immune system, so how we deal with all of these things is through the system in our body called the immune system, and it protects us from potentially harmful substances. Basically, any substance can get a reaction from our bodies, and if our bodies react, we usually respond with something called an antigen. When invaded by an antigen, the body forms antibodies to destroy or weaken the antigen. So basically, this is the foreign object that enters our body, and this is the thing we make to try to kill that other foreign thing that we don't want in there. All right, so that is infectious diseases or infectious sicknesses, so I hope that that makes sense.